Trail cameras have become very popular over the last decade or so, usually for hunters to locate a big buck on their property. But there's a lot of other uses that a hunter can use their trail cameras for. We're here with Eric Bartholomew, our big game biologist. He's going to talk to us a little bit about some other uses that trail cameras can be done for. So, Eric, what are some things we can do with trail cameras other than locating that big whopper buck on our property?
Well, a bit like you, Doug. I know I've got probably thousands of deer pictures on my camera that I've never really done anything with. I thumb through them and I look for that deer that I'm after that year, and then it gets put away until next year when I go pull my cards out of my cameras. You can actually use those cameras to do a survey of the deer on your property. If you've got 1,000 acres or so, or even on smaller properties, for those properties that are 1,000 acres, they recommend that you put out about one camera for every 160 acres. For properties smaller than that, you can go down to one per 100 or even one per 40 acres. What you need to do is you need to get a map of your property and kind of grid it out. And then within that grid, find good deer habitat or where deer are coming through, or a place you may even have a feeder in that little block. Put your camera up there. It's important to pre-bait for about 7 to 10 days. Get the deer used to coming to that area. And then what you can do is run your survey for about 10 to 14 days. Research has shown that if you run that survey for at least 14 days, you're going to get about 90% of the deer that are in that area coming to that feeder.
So once you do get your deer coming in and you've gotten your trail camera pictures, what do you plan on doing with those pictures then?
So like I said before, we've probably got thousands of deer pictures that we've never done anything with. What you can do is actually use the bucks that are on your property to help get an index of the number of deer on there. So for example, say you got 100 pictures of bucks on there. You go through and you start sorting them and you find out that you've got 10 bucks on there. Well, that gives you a ratio of 1 to 10 on the bucks on that property. And you can do the same thing with does and doe fawn groups. 1 year worth of data is good information, but doing that for multiple years will really give you an idea of what that deer herd's doing on your place, and what the management that you're doing how that's affecting your deer herd.
So Eric, what about time of year? When would we need to do this survey?
Late summer is good because the fawns are up moving with those does. The bucks obviously will have antlers at the end of summer. Do it before the acorns fall, because really once those acorns drop, the deer aren't really going to come to that bait quite as readily. The other time of year is right after deer season ends. The bucks will still have their antlers. There's lots of dry vegetation out there, so that'll really attract them to that bait.
So Eric, you're talking a little bit about management as a hunter or a landowner. What are some things they need to look at?
Sure. So for deer management, we're talking about habitat management and herd management. So for habitat management, there's books written on habitat management. Doing prescribed burns and hard and soft mass management and various things that you can do on the property to grow more deer and to give deer good nutrition so that you have a healthy deer herd. On the herd management side of things, for example, if you're seeing 5 does to every buck, bucks and does are born roughly 50-50 out there. And if you're shooting too many bucks, then there's too many does on the property. There's different things that can happen. For example, the rut gets extended. All those bucks can't get around to all those does, or those few bucks can't get around to all those does. So that makes your bucks get wore out. They get on a lower nutritional plane. They're not as healthy. Whereas if that buck to doe ratio is more closer to say 1 to 2, or it's really hard to get to that 1 to 1 ratio, but that 1 to 2 buck to doe ratio, the rut's shorter, it's more intense. Those bucks don't have to look for does for so long. They're healthier in the long run, and on the other end of that, when those does are dropping fawns in the spring, the fawning period's a lot shorter, so you got all the fawns hitting the ground at roughly the same time, and it's not all strung out through spring and summer, early summer, and it makes it harder for predators to come around and find those fawns. If they're all hitting the ground at once, there's just about a week or 2 long period there that those fawns are real vulnerable, and it makes it harder for those predators to really pick on those fawns.
You were talking about taking a map and putting a grid across your property to try and determine which areas you want to put a trail camera to do these surveys. But how do you do that?
That's a great question, Doug. We like to go out in the woods. Hunters in general are outdoorsy folks, so go for a walk in the woods. It's that simple. Get your map, figure out where you are on your grid, take a GPS, whatever tools you have available. Go for a stroll, look for droppings, look for tracks, look for some old scrapes and rubs, Find areas where there's lots of deer sign and deer activity. Once you do that, it's good to pre-bait for about 7 to 10 days. That gets the deer used to coming in there, and also during that time period, you can have your camera running, and that will let you know if you've got a glitch or something with your camera too. You come in there, and then once you start your real survey for that 10 to 14 day period, then you can really concentrate on that time frame to figure out what's going on.
You were talking about baits. What kind of baits do you usually use for your surveys?
You want something that's going to last out there for a while. Corn, of course, is real good. It's readily available. The problem somewhat with corn is everything eats corn. Crows eat corn, raccoons eat corn. Everything comes to corn. Milo is a good one, or sorghum. There's not so much of that the non-target species. Crows aren't going to hit it quite so hard. The coons are going to come in there, but it's not the candy that corn is.
Well, how far do you want to put your bait away from your trail camera?
It depends. I would look at your manufacturer's directions that come with your trail camera, but usually 12 to 20 feet, somewhere in there, so that you're within the range of the sensor on your camera.
How high do you want to put your trail camera up on the tree?
Again, it depends on the camera. That's one thing you can check during that 7 to 10 day period is that, if it's, say 3 or 4 feet off the ground, and see what kind of pictures you get. In some areas, just because of the vegetation that's surrounding, you might have to get it higher. I've seen folks, even up at 6 foot tall and shooting kind of down at your bait pile. Whatever works, that's part of the fun of it, is figuring out what works. So,
I never thought of a trail camera being used as a management tool, but thanks for all the tips, Eric. And if you need more information, get on our website or contact a private lands biologist. This has been your Management Minute.